Dear Assalamu alaikum, and good evening to all of you who is watching my program there, and Decision Time with Nasir Malik. As you know, last week I did the program on the same Yemen crisis, and this one is again, as I promised as well, I said we'll be bringing another program on Yemen crisis, and I'll try to bring the ground realities, what's exactly happening on the grounds, and and the more facts. Thank you very much for your feedback from the last program, and I do agree with most of you, everybody really. We don't want to see another Muslim country falling into the situation what we have seen, we are seeing in other Muslim countries like Afghanistan, we've seen in Syria, Libya, and now we are seeing that kind of situation in Yemen, where we see Yemen is on the brink of collapse. And today in the studio, I have two guests, very prominent guests here. I would like to introduce both of them. To my left here is Mr. Baraa Shiban, political analyst on Yemen, and also youth representative, project coordinator for Human Rights Yemen, prominent investigator of the US drone strike in Yemen. And then I have Mr. Masoud Shadjere. He is the chair of Islamic Human Rights Commission. Most of you have seen him on the different channels. And welcome to both of you in the program. And first of all, if I'd like to go to you, Mr. Baraa, could you please give me an overview of the events leading up to the Houthi takeover?
The main problem that we face in Yemen, and I think it's very important for your audience to understand, is we had a revolution in 2011, but the dictator who ruled for 33 years is still in power, is still in the country, he's still using his influence, he's still using his power, his money, to run things from under the table, undermining the role of the Yemeni government, undermining the role of the Yemeni president, and undermining the role of any political dialogue or any political discussion happening on the ground. And now today, what we're facing forces, military forces, who are still loyal to the former president. And he's dreaming that he can go back to power, bring back his family to power. And the only way he can do that is by empowering the Houthi rebels. Because of many facts, because of maybe the pressure of the international community, he needs some adventurous rebels who will do the work for him on the ground. And he found the perfect match, who would be the Houthi rebels. The Houthis started advancing after 2011, moving from their stronghold up north of the country, and started moving slowly until finally in September they took control over the capital. After they took control over the capital, they didn't stop there. They kept on advancing south until finally in January they put the president and the prime minister under house arrest. Today we're seeing they're trying to advance south, trying to take the famous city of Aden, and trying to take the southern provinces to create a new reality on the ground, that them and the former president are the only forces present on the ground. We have a new reality that the international community and the regional forces have to deal with, and that's Saleh and then the Houthis, and there is no presence for any other opposition forces.
So when we're going back, what motivated these people, the Houthis? It's got nothing to do with the sectarian, is it? Because when we look at the history, and going back 30, 40 years, there is no any concrete evidence that any sort of sectarian violence in Yemen, really.
Many of them, one of the many problems Yemeni people face is how the media is dealing with the situation in Yemen. It's easy to simplify things that this is a sectarian conflict based on there is a Shiite minority facing Sunnis. Well, the roots of the problem is purely political. It has nothing to do with the people being Shiites or Sunnis. There is a former president trying to get back to power, and he would use any way, whether it be the influence, before he used the influence of Saudi Arabia. Today, he's using the influence of Iran, and he can switch sides very easily. It depends on who is the regional power who can get him back to power and can get back his family back to power. And actually, he even offered to the Saudis that he can ditch the Houthis and he can actually switch sides and can ensure for them that the Houthis will not be in power. But if
he gets the share.
Yeah, exactly. And if he's ensured that he gets immunity and the UN sanctions being dropped on him and his family.
So what would happen to you Houthis then, for example, for instance, if he does go ahead with Saudis and if he gets some sort of share in the power?
Well, the Houthis from their side also think that they can take power. They can eventually, after they get rid of their opponents, and at the time being, it happened that the same opponents of Saleh and Houthis are President Hadi and the forces rallying around President Hadi. If it happened that they got rid of their opponents totally, it will be the time when the Houthis start fighting with Saleh, and that was so close if the Saudi airstrike didn't start on the 26th of March last month.
So what about when the first place they took was Amran, right?
Amran, yeah.
Amran, is it Amran? Right. Okay. When they came to Amran and they took over Amran, why did not resist Masoud Hadi? Why did he not resist? Even though he had a very good support from the Arab countries and he had a good support from the international community as well. Didn't he resist?
The Houthis were able to, let's say, divide and conquer. They were able to divide their opponents in a way to say, we are now targeting Islah Party. This is the equivalent of the Muslim Brotherhood inside Yemen, and we're only targeting them and the forces inside the army and tribal forces loyal to the Islah Party. After they were able to, let's say, at least push them aside for some time, it's time then to get rid of Hadi. They did it in a clever way that seems that we're not fighting everyone at the same time. They divided the enemy, started with different groups, Salafi groups in the north, and then moving to Amran fighting the Islah, and then eventually when they took over the capital, they started targeting Hadi. Hadi fell to the trap of the Houthis and Saleh that they're only targeting forces loyal to the Islah Party, forces loyal to the Muslim Brotherhood.
So the majority of Yemenis are the Shafi Muslims, am I right?
Yeah, but the problem in Yemen, it's not because there is a majority facing a minority. This is the root of the problem is purely political, and that's getting back to 2011, when a dictator who was in power for 33 years was forced to leave power. Now he's dreaming because he was granted immunity, and he remained inside the country to play a political role despite all the crimes he committed in 2011. Now he is dreaming that he can get back to power, he can bring his family back to power, and he can then ensure the international community and the regional forces that he's the best player on the ground who can ensure the stability of Yemen.
Is there also a factor, the people of Yemen are frustrated because of the poverty and the corruption? Because when we see that there was a time when Yemen was second from the bottom on the corruption level.
Of course. One of the main problems actually of Yemen, I mean, the failure in Yemen is, in a way you can describe it, as an economical failure, is a failure of policy, is an accumulation failure of policy. The Yemeni people, and I think this is one of the main problems that we faced after 2011, that many people didn't feel that the change that they were dreaming for, or the hope that they saw during the revolution, has changed their life, have seen any visible things in their daily life. They're still living in poverty. Most of the Yemeni people don't live in the main city.
I'm going to come to the current situation in a bit. Let me just go to Mr. Masoud Shadjere. Mr. Masoud Shadjere, I'm going to go to your organization in a bit, maybe in the second part of the program. We'll be talking on Islamic Human Rights Commission. But could you just tell us how are you looking at the situation right now in Yemen?
Well, I think we need to recognize that the problem in Yemen is actually manipulation of both Saudis and Americans. This hasn't just happened after the sort of Arab Spring. It's the problem with Yemen going on for a very long time, and in many ways it has been, Saleh was actually a stooge of Saudi Arabia and the United States, allowing policies to be unleashed against his own people, the drones being attacked, and he was really, a stooge in any form and shape. And then the Saudis actually took him out and gave him protection in Saudi Arabia when its own people turned against him. And they put in power someone from the same establishment. It wasn't really a revolution. And the Saudis don't want to allow any empowerment in the area. We saw what happened in Egypt. When Hosni Mubarak was removed and Muslim Brotherhood came to power, they spent huge amounts of money. They used their influence. They used certain section of the so-called Salafi community and everyone else. They made an investment and they turned the coup completely around. Now Mubarak Mark II is in power in Egypt, which is actually causing more problems than before. And Yemen is not that much difference to this. And the reality is that what makes the situation of Yemen difficult is actually interference from outside. And the people themselves have never had any ability to actually organize themselves. And the other reality is, and I know I agree with there are manipulations there, but the fact is this, that this is not a small group of people coming from north and taking over everywhere. There are people joining them, and for whatever reason, frustration of economy, frustration of corruption, frustration of Saudi involvement in past, there are parts of Yemen which is under occupation of the Saudis. And, Saudis are not, and this is one thing we need to understand, neither Saudis or Americans or the rest of the Gulf are there to actually look after the Yemeni people. They don't look after their own people. They're not there to bring democracy there. They're not there to bring economical solution. They're not there to get rid of the sort of corruption. As a matter of fact, corruption and so forth are part of the game of the Saudis and the rest. We know what they do. The reality is that Saudi Arabia's intention in Yemen is not honorable by any means. And I think what we really need to sort of say at this stage, that we want to see an end of interference in Yemen, and we want the Yemenis to be given the opportunity to actually stop being manipulated from outside and actually go on and get on with their lives. And Yemen hasn't had that option up to now. Neither with Saleh or the afterward with the sort of current sort of president. Now, I think this is very important, I think we need to understand the implication. Saudi Arabia has got 2 islands by the Red Sea, which is under occupation of the Israelis. They never put a finger to actually, protect their own islands.
Is there any danger, like we see in the newspapers and everywhere in the media, is there any dangers to holy places from Yemeni's Houthi group?
Oh, come on, the holy places, the only danger is the royal family, which is actually, knocking bits and pieces of it down and building, obnoxious sort of hotels on it. There is no danger from anybody. This is actually outrageous. When there was a danger from Saddam, they didn't go and fight it. They called the Americans to come and help us. They didn't lift a finger. They are not protecting anything. I think it's outrageous to think that the Houthis are going to go from Yemen to actually attack the holy places. What for? How stupid.
But they threaten to do
But
so.
how much?
They might threaten from a point of, look, do you really think that's a possibility that they actually go all the way into Saudi Arabia?
It's not just Houthis. When we look at that, the Saudis and the Arab countries, they're also saying that there is a big influence behind is Iran.
Yeah, but they're also turned the Muslim Brotherhood into the terrorist organization. We all know. Whatever you might think or not think about the Muslim Brotherhood, they're not a terrorist organization. If anybody is committing terrorism, is this. Look at the Saudis. The figure of the political prisoners in Saudi Arabia. There are 30,000 political prisoners in Saudi Arabia. Overwhelming majority, 85% of them, from a Sunni Salafi background. You know, this is an oppressive system against everyone who actually uses sectarianism and other means to justify its oppression of the people. This is a disease that, you know, from the beginning, Saudi Arabia was created to divide the Khilafah.
I'll be coming to that. Let me just go to Mr. Baraa. So how do you see that? I think I've been asked to take a break here. When I come back from the break, I'll put that question to you. How do you see the Iran influence in there? And we'll just take a small break here. When we come back from the break, we'll carry on our discussion. Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back after the break. And before the break, I was putting that question to Mr. Baraa about is Iran trying to influence it's like some of the Arab countries believe, like they did in some of the countries, Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq. What do you think on that?
Well, this is going back to the question about the Houthis and how the Houthis were created. The Houthis faced 6 wars in the past, but after 2011, things have changed. And whenever we talk about the problem, they say, yeah, but you know, the government fought them in the past. And I think this is one of the reasons why we had the revolution in 2011 against the former regime. When you know, our guest here was talking about we have to just leave the Yemeni people to make on their own decision, and I totally agree. But how to leave them is the Houthis shouldn't go occupying cities and provinces one after another and enforcing their way, their system. Just leave the Yemeni people to make their own decision. We were months away from having a referendum on the new constitution. We were months away from having new elections. Despite all the fighting they did, despite all the mess they created, people were willing to still go forward and forget the past and willing to move forward towards the future.
So do you believe the coalition was too early to go for a strike?
The coalition made it like the problem is that they've waited too long and there wasn't real support to the transition, and I'm talking economical support to the Yemeni government. With half of the amount that is now being spent on the Saudi coalition operation inside the country, with only half of that money, that was enough to solve most of Yemen's problems. And this is the main problem, that we didn't look into empowering strong government institutions that are able to deliver services to the Yemeni people. These are the things that Yemeni people see in their daily lives, and that hasn't changed.
Is this because of the external influence, or is it just inside the Yemen, the political parties?
No, the problem is that they kept empowering the same old people, the people who created the mess until we reached 2011. Even until the last moment when the former president was sanctioned by the United Nations. I remember talking to a Saudi diplomat inside Sana'a, and he said, we took away his son from that sanctions list because we wanted to ensure that he will have a future or let's say, not waste his future opportunities to run for presidency. This is one of the main problems that we face in the country. After all of that happened, the Houthis kept on going. It's not like suddenly suddenly the Saudis decided to attack.
Yeah, can I say something here? Because you see, I agree with the fact that they should be left alone. But you know, you seem to say that they should be left alone and no attack should have happened. But they should have given money to actually
empower the government.
They're never going to empower the government. Saudis will never, and you don't wake up out of your dream. They are never going to empower any people. They're going to empower dictators, be it the son, be it the father, be it the uncle, be it whoever. I mean, and because the point is this, that if anyone in that region is empowered, they worry that they're going to be next.
Well,
and because of that, they would do everything on their power.
Our role inside Yemen is to ensure that we keep calling for our cause. Our role in Yemen is not to, the problems that are inside Saudi Arabia is not my fight. This is not my fight.
I'm not suggesting.
Let me just finish my thought.
Yeah.
The problems inside Yemen, our role inside the country is to keep ensuring that we have a government in place. The solution is not to demolish the government, to destroy government institutions and replace them with militias. This is not a solution.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying you have to wake up. It's just like Palestinians or Kashmiris sitting down with saying that instead of Israelis or the Indian government attacking us, if they give us that half of that money as a funding, we could actually organize ourselves. Well, it's true, but they're never going to do it. Same thing here. I mean, what you're saying is actually a very nice thing to say, but the Saudis are not going to do it. I'm telling you. You know, I bet my life.
Well, let me ask Mr. Baraa.
Well, let me say. At the same time, if we're complaining about Saudi intervention that has been in the country for 33 years or even more than that, it doesn't help to even empower Houthis by sending shipments of weapons by the Iranians to support a militia inside the country. That doesn't that doesn't help us as Yemenis. The problem, how to solve the Saudi intervention, is not by empowering another forces, another militia inside the country, and say we can create a balance of power. This is not how things should be run inside the country. And now we have a problem. One of the easiest solutions is that the Houthis or the Iranians can at least advise the Houthis to start withdrawing from the southern provinces, at least as a start, and announce a ceasefire and say, let's start negotiating.
That's the immediate requirement now, is a ceasefire, isn't it?
A ceasefire is absolutely, you can't, you see, you know, look, whatever the political situation in Yemen, and we could discuss that for days to come, bombing people over their head is not going to resolve it.
I agree.
You know, bombing has to stop and negotiation has to take place.
The problem is that
and then, look,
the fight is not one-sided. The people in Aden, the people in Aden, in Lahj, in the south, are being complaining. Let me finish this. Are being complaining about the Houthi Saleh bombing on their cities. No one has been complaining about this. It's not like the Saudis are bombing and the other side is just watching. It's not like the people. The people
Saudis,
in Aden actually are calling for the Saudis to intervene. Even how terrible the intervention
No, but
is.
what are we looking at, Mr. Baraa? If I just want to update, I had one question as well from one of somebody on the social media. How big humanitarian crisis is there right now? You know, considering that Yemen has already been suffering with a long time.
I agree that there is a serious humanitarian crisis we'll be facing. Now, for me, thanks for the Houthis and thanks for Saleh for bringing the whole country into chaos and making the country reach where the situation where we are today. Today we have in Yemen, like before this whole thing started, we have almost 12 million people living with less than $2 a day before all of this started. We have in Yemen a situation where 80% of the food is being imported from outside, and now we don't have that.
There's a figure today is 130,000 people just displaced. They're leaving the country.
And I wouldn't be surprised. Sana'a, which is the capital, the estimates.
Infrastructure is
the estimates today. The estimates today that 40% of the population in Sana'a have left. So you have a city, a capital, which is almost empty.
I mean, what do you say?
I think we have to recognize that, you know, bombing infrastructure. Look, these arguments are being always made. You know, look at Libya. You know, the argument was made that, you know, Gaddafi is this. Well, of course, Gaddafi was a dictator and you know, loony to some extent. But what actually these guys did and bombed and destroyed is actually, you know, hasn't resolved anything. It made things 10 times worse by going and bombing and killing people.
What we see is
this is outrageous.
What we see, there is a. I've got a map here, and I could see there is about 175 jet fighters are bombing on Yemen, right? And they have done 250 plus strikes so far. And when we look at the air strikes we have seen in Afghanistan, we have seen everywhere. Even one of the most professional pilots, they can't achieve the targets 100%. I mean, and when we look at
having an operation this big, it is almost impossible to avoid civilian casualties. It is almost impossible. You have an operation this big and a coalition from, I don't know, 8 to 10 countries. It's impossible to avoid civilian casualties. But the fact is that in war, there will always be civilian casualties. The question that we should be asking, how can we stop this? how can we avoid the Yemeni people or more people from being from being killed by the Saudis or by the Iranians. The solution is not by sending more shipments to the Houthis so we can have a balance of power. This is not going to resolve anything.
How are we
talking about
point,
200, if you're talking about 200 strikes, there have been thousands of shelling over the city of Aden. Children have been killed by snipers inside Aden. No one has been complaining about this. This is one of the main, this is the root of the problem.
No, the root of the problem is Saudis in the name of...
The root of the problem that there has been people, a militia moving from all the way from the north, going city after city. And being empowered by a regional force like Iran. And no one has been complaining.
There have been conflict within Yemen for a very long time. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that the Saudis are no savior of anybody. And if you really think that, you need to actually...
The Saudis were empowering
you keep on saying that the Saudis
were empowering Salah. The Saudis were empowering Salah.
Mr. Baraa,
exactly.
The Saudis were empowering Salah. Who's today the Houthis ally? Who's now dealing with the Iranians? Come on, wake up.
Let me just...
They will support any criminal. I'm not talking about Iran or anywhere else. I'm saying the Saudis are not supporter of any empowerment or anything positive. These guys are not positive in anywhere, even in their own country.
Well, my role
let me ask Mr. Baraa.
No, you're supporting indirectly. You're supporting indirectly Saudis bombing Yemen.
I came from Yemen.
Yeah, but you're supporting.
I know the suffering of the Yemeni people.
Mr. Baraa.
Many of the Yemeni people are complaining about the Houthis.
Mr. Baraa.
I was talking to people today from Aden who's been like, there are snipers on top of the buildings shooting on
You're indirectly supporting Saudis bombing.
Just a second, Mr. Baraa. You know the ground realities. You know everything. You are from Yemen. Can you just tell us what is the immediate solution right now? Because the suffering people are suffering, whether they are Houthis or whether they are from Saudi airstrikes. The people are suffering. The common people are suffering.
The Yemeni people are going to suffer. That's the problem. I don't believe that the solution, like nor the Saudis nor the Houthis are going to win this war. And the suffering will be on the Yemeni people. Now the immediate solution, if you want real immediate solutions, is that the Iranians advise the Houthis that they should start withdrawing from the southern provinces. This is an immediate solution, and announce an immediate ceasefire. The ceasefire is announced by the group who announced the war to begin with. They are the ones who started. They called on the Yemeni people. They've been sending SMS messages to the Yemeni people, text messages asking them to donate to fight the people in the south. How insane this militia can go inside Yemen, a country that is suffering from poverty. You're asking people to donate. The fuel crisis inside
if
the
both sides are going to carry on, we got to...
Let me just finish this point.
It's obvious.
The fuel crisis, we're suffering fuel crisis inside the country.
There's a disaster.
And they're telling the Yemeni people that we need to put that fuel...
Right, I'm just going for a break.
No, let me just go for a break. For the Houthi vehicles to go and fight in the south.
I'm just going to take a small break here, Mr. Baraa, and then I'll come back after the break. Yes, we'll just take a small break, and we'll come back from the break. We have to talk on Islamophobia as well with Mr. Masoud, and we'll carry on the solution from Mr. Baraa, and let's take a small break. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back after the break. Before the break, we were talking on that, and I think we haven't got much time left in the program. And I would like to ask my guest on the solution, what the possible solution, and also the role of Pakistan. At the moment, as we all know, Pakistan have passed the resolution from the Parliament. Pakistan is a democratic country, and the Parliament has passed a resolution to be neutral, not to be the party of any country. And I'll go to Mr. Baraa first. Mr. Baraa, just give us the solution. What's the solution right now? You know the ground realities very well.
Right. We have a situation where we have cities being under siege by the Houthi and Saleh forces. We have thousands of troops around the city of Aden bombing the city. I cannot convince in any way the people in Aden that there is a solution, an immediate solution, if that didn't stop. So the immediate solution is that there are countries that the Houthis listen to. The Iranians, they listen to the Iranians. They maybe even listen to the Omanis. They can intermediate and start advising them like, listen, we can resolve the problem slowly. There's nothing like a quick solution.
So you believe the both parties, the Saudi Arabia and Iran, they need to come on the table and stop this?
Exactly. So we start advising them that they need to immediately withdraw from the city of Aden and from the other southern
So there the
provinces.
people can advise them, and they
Exactly.
listen to
And
them.
then immediately after that, we call for an immediate ceasefire, and everyone comes to the table. Now, it's going to be hard, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to take time. But there is now, under the current circumstances, there isn't immediate solution.
Mr. Masoud, what do you think on the solution?
Solution, immediate stop of bombing. Because bombing from the air did not resolve the situation in Iraq, did not resolve the situation in Libya.
We have seen the countries
it destroyed completely. Doesn't matter what's going on. Doesn't matter how much a tyrant is. It can't be worse than Saddam Hussein. This is not a solution. It will destroy everything. First of all, stop the bombing, because that is outrageous. Secondly, we need to look for political solution to this, because military solution is not going to be
Why don't you
any
advise
solution.
the Houthis to stop even their
Look,
troops from
just
shooting into Aden?
Just a second.
This is a
Just
question.
a second.
Why don't you advise at the same time the Houthis from stopping
Why don't you advise the Saudis don't bomb your people?
Why don't you, at the same time, why don't you advise the Houthis from stopping shelling the people in Aden?
If you
Thousands
listen,
of
But
if you wait me to say,
Mr. Baraa,
you know, when I'm talking about the when I'm talking about political solution, obviously political solution, and when I'm saying there should be no military solution, then I'm basically saying no one should be shooting at anybody. And if you don't understand that, this is what it means. There has to be a political solution. Political solution means giving and taking. And actually, at the end of the day, no one from outside is actually got a, you know, those people who are bombing the infrastructure of Yemen have got no interest for the Yemenis. And then we need to make sure that that stops, end of ceasefire and political solution. And those
the average life, when we look at that, when we're talking about the bombing and inside fight, before when you give the reference to Iraq, when Saddam time, the people life wasn't as bad. What is right now, the people are struggling. The children. What we see is, Mr. Baraa, we see 2.5 million children.
Do you know what are the children? They've been recruited by the Houthis to go and fight. Yes, where are the children? Where are the Yemeni children? 12 and 13-year-old people trying to fight, like going to the south and fighting people.
You know, you're talking like this, like the Iraqi Shias.
I'm not talking about anything. I'm a Yemeni citizen. I'm a Yemeni citizen who is coming from Yemen, and I know the situation in the country. I know the situation in the country, and I see those children fighting in the south.
There was a
I left from Aden, and I know how the situation.
Mr. Baraa,
would you let me say something?
Mr. Baraa,
there was a section of Iraqi Shias who said the same thing. Saddam Hussein is bad, and he was bad. There's no doubt. Invited the Americans, and actually we end up with what we end up in Iraq. This is not a solution. Let me go to
Pakistan. Let me just go to Pakistan. Right, okay. And the resolution's been passed from the parliament, Pakistan's parliament. It's a democratic country, Pakistan, and they said the parliament clearly said with the party or any other. If, for example, if the country decides to be neutral, if the war, because we will have now another potential. They need that can step in.
I mean,
when we see the UNO, when we see that there is a peacekeeping force being sent to the several parts of the world, what do you think if the Pakistani peacekeeping force will go to Yemen? Do you believe they will not have any opposition? Or how would that be seen in Yemen?
Since the Pakistani government or the Pakistani parliament decided not to intervene and to be neutral, this means we have another chance, we have another opportunity of a new country that can step in and intermediate in the current crisis. They can intermediate between the both countries, the Saudis and the Iranians. This is a potential. This is a chance I'm seeing here. It's not a bad thing that they decided not to intervene. And I think the next question we should be asked: how can we benefit from the fact that Pakistan decided to be neutral, from benefiting the situation on the ground, to benefit the Yemeni people?
I mean, if there is a peacekeeping force from a few Muslim countries, like let's suppose there's Pakistan and there's Turkey, I mean, one more Muslim countries, the peacekeeping forces on the ground, and they help the Yemeni people to get their fair government.
Well,
what do you think?
The peace.
How would that be seen?
That would be seen
peacekeeping force.
Yemeni people don't see that as a peacekeeping force. They see it as an invasion. This is the main problem. The Yemeni situation inside the country hasn't been welcoming from any foreign forces to come into the country, and I don't think involving any regional country or any foreign country will solve the situation inside the country. How can we solve the problem is that we have regional forces who have influence on people on the ground. We can convince them.
But they're divided. They're divided into groups and tribes and.
Who have it divided? We have the Houthis from one side, okay, and we have
Saleh has got.
And we have
Saleh.
Saleh
You have a tribe on the Aden. Is that close to the Saudi border?
I mean, the reason why the Houthis have been able to advance very fast is that they've been benefiting from the Yemeni military, the Yemeni army, who has been now serving a dictator. This is one of the main problems they're facing inside
So,
Yemen.
Mr. Masoud, how are you looking at the Pakistan role there?
Pakistan actually has done the most wise thing that any Muslim country should do, because recognizing that putting more fuel on this fire is actually going to destroy the lives of the people over there and will not achieve anything. You know, ceasefire has been asked for by a number of countries, including Iran, saying and stop the thing, and that needs to be picked up and actually dealt with. We need to find solution. As difficult as there is only political solution for this situation, because war is going to destroy the lives of the most innocent people. It's just
It has been.
And it's not, look, it just, and you know, to think that, you know, somebody is going to come with the planes and put bombs and we're going to find the solution through that, that's outrageous. So
you finish the one generation and then start funding them. What about that generation?
And the child and the family of those who died in the bombing are going to take the fight afterward to the next generation. This is not a solution. We need to find, you know, Islamically, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says if there is a conflict between two, then the third party comes and actually mediates. And if one side did not agree, then fight them until they destroy, because this fitna is actually totally unacceptable. It doesn't say go on and start bombing. You know, this is outrageous and we need to sort of deal with it. We also need to understand that, if people of Saudis or this Gulf state were ever interested about ordinary people, they would have been interested in their own ordinary people rather than, showing democracy. They want to bring democracy to Yemen.
I mean, it's so sad to see, Mr. Baraa, so sad to see the children we've seen in Syria.
Absolutely.
There is 2.5 million children there. Their education has been taken away from them. Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, Rabbi zidni ilma. And then these people, the education has been taken away from the children. They don't go to school. 2.5 million children aren't going to school. And the same as with Afghanistan, with Libya. The main concern is people don't want
and who wins? And who wins?
The problem didn't just start. This is what I'm trying to explain to everyone.
Yeah.
The Houthis were bombing schools every city they came into. They bombed Islamic schools. They bombed Quran schools. They even bombed primary schools inside all the cities they've occupied.
How could you bomb mosques?
How can you bomb a mosque and bomb a school? This is the problem.
That is outrageous. Has never been. None of us have seen any evidence of what this brother is saying. But the point is this. The point is this. No, look, you're the same. You're a Yemeni citizen, but you're praising Saudis for coming here.
He's from Yemen and he has.
I can give you by names in the name of schools. I can give you by names, name of schools and mosques. The children
this is the same person that actually doesn't want to condemn the bombing of Saudi. Why don't you condemn the Saudi bombing? Condemn it right now in front of this. Condemn it.
Hold on. I've been condemning it from the first day.
Condemn it now.
Hold on. I've been condemning it from the first day. The problem is we need to solve the situation from all parts. Beginning with the Houthis. Let me finish. Starting with the Houthis and Saleh to immediately withdraw their forces, and then we need to stop, because I also believe you cannot enforce. Let me finish. Because I also believe that you cannot enforce political solutions by bombing a country. This is something that I believe in.
Yeah, but you think it's justified because of what you.
It's not
justified. But there is, Mr. Masoud, there is also concerns that Iran has some sort of influence, and they're saying that
Iran hasn't got any soldiers there. Yeah. Iran hasn't got any plane there. Iran at most is supporting. Right, but Saudi Arabia is next door. It's shipping weapons all the time. It's got its bombers bombing, hundreds of sorties every day. And
but they need to come on table, the both sides, Iran and the Saudi Arabia both need to sit down.
I'm not the spokesperson.
The Saudis will not just solve the problem by bombing the country.
I'm not supporting
by just sending weapons to a militia inside the country. This is what I'm saying, and most of the Yemeni people are saying.
So who can lobby now? I mean,
the point is this, that I'm not a supporter of Iran in this, and I think Yemenis should be left on their own. Yeah. But there is a lot of difference of supporting one group than actually sending planes and bombing ordinary people. There is a lot of difference in this. And unless we stop the bombing, we cannot start talking. And that bombing has to stop, and people need to be brought together to discuss this, because there is no other alternative. All the other alternatives is going to kill the ordinary innocent people, destroy the infrastructure, as we've seen everywhere else. There is no justification for that. And you can't sort of even justify it by saying Houthis and the ex-president have taken over and are taking over the country. Even if they do that, still bombing by the planes is not a solution. And we need to recognize this, that this has brought destruction and chaos into our Muslim land. And only they're doing it in the Muslim land. They're not going to go protect the Palestinians.
But if this is going to carry on, because we don't, it's on the brink of collapse, isn't it? The Yemen now it can't carry on any further, can it?
No, I mean, I think, yeah. Like a final word. I don't think there is a quick and immediate solution. We need, like, the Yemeni people should come together. But what I'm trying to say here from the beginning of the show, this is not a one-sided war. This is a war that's been waged by the Houthis and Saleh, and then there was a response by the Saudis. How can we resolve this? Is that there is an immediate
Saudis are not Yemenis.
So what are you seeing?
Saudis are not Yemenis.
Pakistan role there.
I think Pakistan, since it decided to be neutral, this is an opportunity that it can start immediately, and I'm saying immediately, to intermediate between the different forces on the ground, and especially the regional forces, which is Saudi Arabia and Iran, to quickly enforce a ceasefire and immediate talks to begin.
Right. That's just a quick one.
We have to
Islamic word. How do you need to look at that?
We need, no matter how grave the situation is, fighting, military action, bombing by external power is not a solution, and that needs to stop. And we need to actually find solution, even if there are atrocities committed by internal forces. This is no solution to bring bombing. And we need to go back to Islam, and the fact is...
You don't want to see another country going that
No, I mean, this is outrageous sort of thing that, now Muslims are not fighting to defend Muslims, for Muslims are fighting against Muslims. I mean, this is outrageous. There's so many oppressed Muslims around the world. No one is picking up a finger to actually protect them, and we are only killing one another. We need to stop it immediately.
Thank you very much, both of you gentlemen, and hopefully we have to bring it to it's the efforts, collective efforts are required right now from the major power brokers, and as we said, the Saudi Arabia and Iran both need to come on the table if we really need to resolve the problem. But as we were saying before, war is not going to help anybody. What we've seen in Iraq, and we've seen Afghanistan, we've seen so many innocent loss of lives, so many people are displaced everywhere in the world, and we don't want to really, nobody wants to see that happening again to another Muslim country. Thank you very much, and inshallah, and Ajin, you have heard from that Mr. Baraa is from Yemen, and from Mr. Masoud Shadjere. I really wanted to talk to Mr. Masoud on his organization, really. I had a lot of questions for him, and we really wanted to talk on that, but I didn't get chance to speak to him on those issues. And Islamophobia, of course, and we will be talking on that. We'll be doing another program especially on Islamophobia. Thank you very much for watching us tonight, and we'll see you again, inshallah, next week on Saturday.